My. It has been a full day. It's been a full day. Thank you guys. Thank you all for your patience and for just holding on for me. I was in another live with the Upset podcast, and they wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't let me go. Blaine Patrick Graham, Latasha Hewitt, Pastor Marlena, and Brother Chuck. All right, for holding me. But I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to share. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and as you know, I am talking about domestic violence every day this month. Every day, I am posting something about domestic violence. It is my intention. It is my intention to build an awareness about what domestic violence, domestic abuse, intimate partner violence. I want to build, increase the awareness about it. And so I am posting something every day about domestic violence. And also on Sunday, I am entering this space with some friends of mine who can share more information about domestic abuse. Tonight, we are supposed to have Garry Graham in the group. Hey, listen, don't get me. Blame your brother, okay? Blame your brother. It's Pat's fault. Pat's fault.
That's okay. I'm fine with that.
he,
That's
he
all.
would he wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't let me go. And it was a really great discussion. I don't know if you had a chance to tune in, but we would.
Those guys are good over there. They're consistent. So you're in demand, and it's domestic violence month, and you and I know that we're going to try to stretch this conversation outside of this month also. So
Absolutely.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank
It's
you.
important because the Mets are playing, and so and my Ravens are playing also. So
Okay, so
right.
listen.
Mm.
Thank you.
That's it.
So
They're
Garry,
making their money anyway. So you're right. So we got to do what we need to do. We got to inform the people. So
so Garry, you have been doing your own your own stuff with DV, and was it this week that you had something on DV
yeah,
Friday?
but DV, which you're invited to, we have to go into negotiations. That'd be unfair to. Actually, the DV is Martin Luther King weekend. Right.
Oh,
hmm So once a month, I do an in-person seminar. So I lead, my specialties are substance abuse, adolescents, boys, grief counseling. And over the last year, and that's what connected us together, is DV and intimate partner violence. And it was very surprising to me on my caseload, the amount of intimate partner violence that goes on. And we have put that in there. So
mm,
without saying too much, one way a lot of people think that I'm the expert on it, but I'm glad that you got me on it because I have access
mm.
to all these experts to come on, and so I'm letting everybody know that Dr. Kess is one of the first and foremost experts that we have. She will be there. We'll work that whole
We'll
thing,
work it out. We'll work it out.
work it out. But she talks about every month, but I tried to extend it through the year. And you and I have the same strategy. We like throwing it up on our stories and keep on reminding people that what domestic violence is and how you can talk about it.
So Garry, let's back up.
Sure. I'm sorry.
Tell me, just for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, we know you from, you know, the Grams,
Humble, right?
the
Right.
humble, the Grams.
Right.
Um, how did you get into clinical work? What's your story into clinical work? And then I'll ask you about your intro to DV.
I back. I when I graduated from Oakwood, um, I was about to. Funny story. I applied to be a police officer in New York City.
Really?
Hmm. And I also applied to New York University. And I was like, look, if I don't go to New York University, I'll be a police officer. I said, God, if you want me to go to New York University, uh, I will. I won't be a police officer. Kind of that's how the prayer went, and I got accepted. I got on scholarship, and I came on to be a rehabilitation counselor. And I graduated in 2004, and then I got my start in substance abuse over there. And when you have substance abuse, I was a substance abuse slash vocational counselor. So I help people who were using drugs to get jobs. That was like my first job that I
Mm.
had. And then, one thing led into another. After that, I was working for SUNY Downstate Medical Center. And on the fourth floor, my office was there. And around the corner, they decided to start a school of public health. And
Mm.
I graduated in 2008. I was their first speaker for graduation. The state had
Wow.
accepted it. And then after that, I really jumped into administration and hospital administration and clinical work. So and it's about 15 or 18 years I've been doing that
Wow.
for a long time. And then 2019, I decided to go out on my own to do private practice, and which is very important. Counseling, that's the private practice part, and consulting. So, like the things that me and you do, there's a consulting side, the
Mm.
technical side, how to go
Mm.
about building your, um, you know, your clinical practice,
Mhm,
what have
mhm.
you. So, and the funny thing is, I had to learn to be clinical again, and so that's how I came about. So I'm here.
So I remember my first introduction to DV,
Hmm.
which set the course for so much that I do, and
Hmm.
it was when two sisters were killed in one domestic violence accident. Accident, incident, not an
Hmm.
accident,
Hmm.
and they were people in my faith community
Hmm.
in my church.
Hmm.
Um, and since then, sadly, I've had a number of students, of former students,
Hmm.
who were killed in
Hmm.
domestic violence uh, cases. Do you remember the first time you were introduced as a clinician to a domestic violence situation? What was that like for you?
So to keep it real, domestic violence did not come into to my atmosphere. You hear it. I have to admit it. It was part of my culture, my lifestyle. If somebody get hit upside the head, they
Hmm.
deserved it. I was one of
Hmm.
those, even though I was a clinician and a professional. So the truth
Well,
is, the truth is, and that's why you have me. And I think this is what makes me so authentic. You know, anytime it happened in the NFL or in Major League Baseball, I would be a sports fan that so and so beat up his girlfriend and the domestic violence policy, and I tried to read it. But two people became very influential in my life in domestic violence over the last year, and this is when it really came. Four people. So I'm just going to say there's four people. Dr. Terry Parks, who does domestic violence. He's out of Atlanta. Uh, Mentor, friend, and he's the one that introduced me to private practice. And he does domestic violence daily.
mm,
And he's like, "Oh, gee, this is really what's happening." Another person is Dr. Ovita Williams at Columbia. She used to work in the Brooklyn's DA's office, and she put me onto that. And somebody who's very important to us, our good friend out in Washington State, um, Kelly Robinson. She does that. So can you imagine? I've been doing this for 18 years, and
Wow.
domestic violence really has come on my plate within the last 24 months. Nobody
Mm.
got killed, nobody got beat, and everybody. And then when you talk to your colleagues and you find out what's going on with people, that I was accepting it and I was part of the problem.
Mm.
So within the last 3 years.
Yeah. That's deep. I was
Yeah.
accepting it and I was a part of the problem.
Hmm. Yep.
We talked a little bit about that on the Upset podcast,
Hmm.
and one of the my friends on the show said, so we are a part of the problem.
We are.
Yeah,
Absolutely are. Hmm.
yeah, we're part of the problem. Wow.
Hmm.
Um, so when you know what we haven't done, because I've been talking about this for a while, but we haven't done it. When we think about domestic violence, this is one of my things that makes the hair on the back of my head stand up. We usually only talk about physical abuse, right?
Right. That's exactly
We
right.
only talk about physical abuse.
Hmm.
And it's so much more than that. In fact, what I say is near the end result is the physical abuse, but it's happening far before that.
It starts a long way. Um, I'm gonna share with you, and I'm glad you brought me. I had to convince somebody that they were being abused. You know, when somebody changes their number, I'll use a scenario. I'm trying to call you, and then you wouldn't pick up the phone for me, and I call you from 32 different numbers. That's a
Ooh,
problem. I didn't put my hand on you.
yeah.
I was like, Kesslyn, pick up the phone. Kesslyn, pick up the phone. If I don't talk to you, I find your mother to talk to you. If I don't find your mother to talk to you, I find somebody at your job to talk to you. And it doesn't stop. Now
Yeah.
think about that. Who has the time to do that? And then so we sometimes we have to convince the victim that you are in peril. I hate to say I use that word peril, but you like in the movie Ghost, and when Whoopi Goldberg said, "Girl, you in trouble," it's like
Mm.
you're in trouble.
You in trouble.
Mhm.
Have you seen this was last year. I think we did a special on it. The movie Made. It wasn't a movie. It was a Netflix special. It was like 7 parts.
I know about the movie.
The
Right.
social worker who was doing intake said, "So, are you experiencing domestic violence?" And she was like, "No." And the lady said, "But the things that you've described, are you sure?" She's like, "Well, no, he's never hit me."
Right.
I was like,
Right. Mhm. So there's somebody in our church setting. There's people sitting down in church, and there are some signs. And when I see somebody sit next to somebody and they are super obedient, that's like one of my first signs. You know,
yeah,
um, when I see a guy, and I'm going to get some flack for this, but this is what I see, and I know, and I do this every day. When I see a guy like opening the door for his wife or his girlfriend, and I'm not saying that's the only one, or she's overdressed for certain events, or is always super cuddling up, can't get she can't get his hands over off of him, or
mm.
super things. That's my king. I'm just, these are things that goes on.
You're like,
And,
"That's too much. That's too
right,
much.
right.
Something ain't right there. Something ain't right."
It's too much. And there are events where it gets emotional. Like when our son graduated, that was very close for me and my wife. you know. But if I go around and open the door for Nilsa, she'd be like, "Yo, what do you want? What you want?" Or if you come over my house and there's like super subservience that's going on, that's not who she is, or what have you. So love is pushed in a way, or the kids are afraid of you, or usually that they're a super elder in the church, and nobody shudder around them.
Uber religious.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Uber religious.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So all those things are some crumbs to the problem, and so we have to look out for that. The sad thing about it is, and I know you're hand in hand with me, it's more than October. You know,
Oh
we have
yeah.
we have all these platforms and we don't talk about it. We really need to talk about this in December, around Christmas time and holiday times and
Yeah.
vacation times.
Yes. Yes. So Gary, we have the physical abuse.
Right.
We have the emotional abuse, the mental psychological game,
Hmm.
playing
Hmm.
games,
Hmm.
um making you feel like you don't know what you're talking about, your experience is not real,
Hmm.
all of that, the financial manipulation,
Right.
spending your money, signing your name to checks, and
Right.
you know um what are some other pieces? Financial.
Um, the financial piece to that is the obvious what you said, right? But there's people. One of my favorite stories, and I'm going to cite her. Dr. Williams told me is they had people who would hide their shoes from their significant other, so they wouldn't find their shoes or their work uniforms to go to work, and to stop them, or
Mercy.
somebody picking them up at work, or picking them up, they show up at lunch to eat with it. Those are like, abnormal stuff that goes on. So, you
but
need to
but
be
even
able. That's
but
right.
even and this just came to me, even sending flowers,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So that other people would say, "Oh, that's so
Right.
sweet."
Yep.
But you know what that means.
Right. That means keep yourself straight. So,
Or it's going down tonight.
right.
Like you, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Or you, right. There's a funny thing that you said that uh, the right to choose whether to have sexual activity with your partner or not.
that's right.
You know, So, we all got hints for alone time or what
Yeah,
have you. So, if somebody should not fear to say no to have sex with their partner, because they are going to be abused,
yeah,
not hit. Because see, that's the obvious thing. If I hit
yeah,
my partner or my partner hit me, and men do get abused, you know,
yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
right? And I show up to church with a physical bruise on me, then that's obvious. Like, Sister Graham hitting you. Are you hurt again, Brother Graham? I thought you could handle that. And then the mocking of that.
Yeah,
Or so there are ways that they hold back sexual activities, or they take their money. And here's the number one thing I think it is, and maybe you can endorse this. The isolation from family. That's the number. That's
red flag.
right. Big time red flag.
And sometimes it's that family doesn't want it. They don't want to hear any more about this.
No.
So the isolation can be intentional or consequential,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm glad you. Here we are, and we're really talking about it because we really. It hurts because, um, and then other people step out when they're becoming abused, because they become so vulnerable,
yeah,
and the partner is so angry. It's like, no, I'm a pretty woman. How the heck he's trying to go out with so and so? I gave him pretty babies. I do what he wants or what have you. or somebody does financially well, they don't send them to school, or they do not work together, or they may manipulate a point. Like I'll use my thing. I use my says, well, your mother is living with me, so I'm taking care of her. You owe me. When you hear that type of talk, and you hear it in board meetings, you hear it in church, and people just let it go over their head. And it's like, that's Brother Rand. The Grahams, they always joking or whatever. And that's I'm not trying to tell you to investigate, but there's nobody that good. There really is nobody that good.
Yeah, the goal is to control and exert power over the other person.
That's it. Just
That's
like
the
sexual
goal.
harassment.
Yep,
They think
that's
it's
the
the
goal.
physical thing. The physical is the last thing to uh to do that. Something simple is like, why are you wearing that? You know, that's not your color, baby. Our color for you is this. There's a uniform for that. And when you have to convince, and you have to say, you have to tell them, and the last thing is that you are entertaining the abuser all the time. They
Mm,
text you, you text them back.
mm,
You call them back. You're
mm.
always apologizing. Uh, Doc, we're supposed to have lunch today. I couldn't make it. Gary came to lunch today. And these relationships, whether male or female, stops you from advancing in the life of moving ahead. We all need relationships outside of our intimate relationship. So, you and I are good friends.
Yes.
We're both married, right?
Yeah.
There will be a time that you will call and you'll be like, hey, G, I need this. Are you available?
Yeah.
Or what's going on? And whether it's Nilsa or your husband, and they get involved, they know that people use those platforms to say that uh, our family comes first. But
Mm-hmm.
me and you didn't rock. We could not advance the domestic violence feature in our work.
Yeah.
And it's definitely underrepresented in the black church as a
Absolutely.
president. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do we what do we need to do as well? I'm no longer a clinician, but
Mhm.
what do we need to do as clinicians um, to help? What what can we do? What can we do?
Well, look, I like to take that. We need to market domestic violence as a no-no. Okay. And I
Mm,
say that. So, mm, the National Football League this month is highlighting um, cancer awareness. And a couple of years ago, they would wear pink with a lot of their things. And and it's only recently that we see domestic violence come up. And then
yeah,
you see the National Football League, and I use them because it's the most popular sport. They
yeah,
will say, they'll have on the back of their helmets, "End racism." And even though the race thing is not solved, it raises awareness.
yeah,
But you do not see the major sports put a purple uh, ribbon, or end domestic violence, or he hurt me, and nobody talks about it until something happens.
and it's much more prevalent than breast cancer,
Yeah, well,
right?
because even though somebody dies of it, and I'm gonna turn into an epidemiologist. There's not a lot of people that is it, the incidence and the prevalence is much more because people are alive and they keep on hurting each other over and over again, and they keep on downplaying it. So
Mhm.
I challenge anybody who's listening to this. I say to myself, when's the last time you heard of domestic violence in your church or in your job? Or you hear the terms like, he hits his wife, and um they still get admiration.
Yeah.
They still get adulation.
Yeah.
Like that's oh that's Gary Nelson. They fight sometimes. Yeah, people fight, but how you extend that fight.
So, G, let me ask you,
Go ahead.
what's the difference for real? For real, married folk, we don't always get along with one another, right? What's the difference between a normal marital
Hmm.
disagreement
Hmm.
and domestic violence? What's the what's the difference, man?
Man, it's the intent to hurt and the intent to hurt and the intent to keep that person hurting.
Yeah,
You know, I
by controlling them.
by it. Well, I even go further than that. Controlling them is what we see, Doc, but um, it's just wickedness on top of that, and these are learned behaviors that
Mm,
that goes on. And I don't want to sound like wicked, but I one of the things that comes to a lot of success is that I give real scenarios. Like I'll say again, like my mother-in-law is here. We share duties. That's what marriage is. And if I said to Nilsa, I don't want you to go to work tomorrow. So, well, Gary, I got to work. No, I got this. And she says, then I say, well, I'm not paying the HHA, the home health aid. Okay. If you go to work, your mother's going to suffer. Then that makes you stay home. Complete manipulation,
absolutely.
right? And uh, as strong as a woman you are, and Nilsa is, I've just backed you in a corner. So you're not going to fight me because
I need my mother to be taken care of.
exactly. And it's like, okay, I'm going to fight another day. But before you have a counter punch to my wickedness, I'm already ahead of you. And it's like, well, I'm not paying for her for the rest of the week. Well, how can I do that? Well, can I, you know, then you start negotiating things like sex with your wife, or I won't sit next to you. You have a you have a party, your family goes over, and you're not there. You know, those little things strips away. And the main thing about it, Doc, it is calculated. It is not by accident. It's not organic. Dude or female have to sit down and plan it and make it happen. I'm going to embarrass her, and she is going to, or he is going to submit to my doing.
I don't know if it always is planned. I don't know if it's always planned. I think
Hmm.
some of it is innate, especially if you've been
Narcissism, or
socialized. Say,
right?
say that?
Yeah, narcissism.
Especially if you've been socialized, like
It's true. It's
being
true.
abusive is the norm. It's not,
Right.
I don't have to plan it. It's who I am. You know what I mean?
Right.
So sometimes it's an elaborate plan, but other times it comes out because that's what you know.
Right.
You know? I don't
I,
know.
I, I just I'm trying to get out of the habit of, like, how could you be so dumb?
Mhm.
Why do you let him do that to you? You heard the terms that I'm saying, and I say that term. How could you be so dumb? You don't know the person's uh, situation,
Mhm.
or and a lot of people is hurting. They don't want to look bad, and you go back to it, Doc. This true is just like in marriage, you can have bad weeks, bad days, bad months, but that doesn't mean that you have domestic violence
Right.
involved. Two people could disagree, but it's the manipulation, it's the socialization of you sitting next to me, you not talking. Oh, my husband needs me right now. Whatever the rules were set before,
Yeah.
I need you to leave a message for me. Don't text me. All those things, just all those things.
How do we help folk establish boundaries and or leave? How we help folk do that?
Unfortunately, uh, you know, big plug for the 9998 hotline. that we have for suicide and mental health. I think that that hotline needs to be integrated for domestic violence. Um, we have to learn to come up with an escape plan from being hurt. When we fall into debt, there are people who tells you how to get out of debt. When if you are single and you are lonely, there are ways to go online and find somebody to date, and people take risks with
Mm-hmm.
that. If I'm down or if I need a job, I can call you and say, "Look, I'm going to be in Maryland. I have to start all over, Doc. Can you get me a job at your old place or whatever?" But we do not have the tools, and this is for everybody. We do not have the tools to help somebody and say, "I'm hurting. I'm in a domestic violence issue. Where do I go?" Especially if you're an immigrant and you move there to the
Mm-hmm.
United States, or you move to another state
Mm-hmm.
and you have no family,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you have all these GPS trackers and friends or what have you. Nilsa left or whatever. She's on her way down to Maryland or whatever. Okay, I got Patrick and Paul down there to watch what she does or whatever. And that's tough. And somebody has to play the role until they can find an opening. We just don't give it enough credence. We don't
Mm-hmm.
give it enough information, and we don't give it enough platforms for us to make it part of it for us to stop
Mm.
or slow down.
Yeah. So that's why we do what we do, right? Bring heightened awareness
Well, it
to this
starts with
issue
that,
that most folk they're not talking about.
right?
They're not talking about.
So
And
start with that. When I do my intakes, are you okay? Uh, you know, I ask the question: do you sleep in the same bed? You know, who cooks dinner? Who goes to work? What are the work shifts? Who works at day? Who works at night? Who is going to school? Who babysits? Who takes care of the kids? All of that, you know.
mm,
Yeah, and then people repeat what they see for generations.
yeah.
Like one of the lines in Color Purple is famous. It's like you let Harpo hit me. That was a
You let
answer.
Harpo beats me.
Right, right. What else should I do? Hit her. You know, and even growing that, uh, we have even embraced that was okay and said, "Oh man, that's disgusting." It's like, we look at that as an alternative to doing that.
But it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not. And our children learn what they see
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
repeat cycles.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do. That's right.
Well, G, I'm gonna let you go. I know that this is
That's
gonna play over and over and over. Any wisdom for the people?
man. I am big. I I'm big on our community putting this front. Uh, you know, one of my arms is public health, and one of the arms of public health is advertising and putting it out there. Um, we need to bring, those purple pens and those pink pens. You can get them. Our medical people, our medical core people, our health people just need to call NIH or domestic violence and bring it to your website. I mean, I could tell you, if you survey 100 websites in any black church, nothing, maybe 10 or less than that, maybe 3%. That's 3 out of 100. I'm talking about would say something about domestic violence.
I don't even think it's that many.
Okay.
I
I
don't think
may,
it's that
I,
many.
I I may, I just tell anybody, I challenge them, go 100 churches and go to their sites. They'll have breast cancer and but not domestic violence. I don't want to say it's not a conspiracy theory, but breast cancer is pink, it's flowery. Somebody has died, not at the hands of somebody else, so it doesn't sound violent. Nobody want to discuss that, but it needs to be in
Listen,
the forefront.
you talking about conspiracy theory, and there's money connected to breast cancer.
Big money,
Big money connected to
big
breast
big
cancer.
money.
And there ain't no money connected to domestic violence.
Right? No. Mm-mm.
Somebody's getting paid off
Mm-mm.
breast cancer.
Yeah,
A
always.
lot of somebody's.
Right, right.
Yeah. Well,
I
thank
look
you, my friend, for joining me for this conversation. Go ahead.
anytime. Oh, sorry. Anytime, Dr. Kess. Our crusades are linear and parallel to what's going on. There's also an arm of not of domestic violence. There's trafficking involved. There's silence. Uh, just it doesn't have to be with partners. Is us beating our kids and making them feel small, and
That's right.
you know
Because it's a whole family.
the
It's
whole
elder
thing,
abuse.
the whole thing, the whole thing. And so, uh, we have to learn to argue and fight and disagree without hurting our family, the people that we love long term.
Yeah. Gary, this is I thought about it earlier when you mentioned it, but I didn't say it then.
Hmm.
I've recently heard of a person who was not physically beaten, but
Hmm.
was forced to engage in uh, relations
Hmm.
with multiple people
Yeah,
in front of their child.
yeah.
Domestic abuse.
Power. Listen, power. You know, mm, I'm going. I want. I'm just going to say this, right? So, as a therapist and a counselor and a clinical, when you hear these stories, they want you to jump back and like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But you know what? This happens more than you think.
Absolutely. You are not the only one.
Right, right, exactly. Just like,
Yes.
oh, okay. So your half is, your girlfriend is having sex with your friends from the club or friends you play dominoes with to show your superiority over them.
Yeah.
And you know when me and you talk, and I know when we go this, and then one of the things when we invite you, shameless plug, in MLK weekend to come up to New York, these are the things we need to talk about it. We need to stop sugarcoating
Yeah.
what's going on. So
Yeah. Yeah. It happens.
mhm.
And the stats say 1 in 3, right? Or 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men. But that's
Shorty
only because that 1 in 3 reports it.
they report it, right? So
Right.
we know that, my lady.
There are so many more who don't.
Yep.
And that's only the 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, 1 in 7
Mm,
who have experienced physical
right.
abuse.
And if it's somebody of color, those that's even changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot of work to be done, my friend.
thank you for having me. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We're always working. I'm ahead of you. I'm going to Washington State right after this, and
Hey.
then hopefully we get to speak sooner than later,
Yeah.
over the next over this quarter. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. I'm sure that this will play.
Hmm.
This will live in perpetuity. Is that the right word? Perpetuity. Sounds good.
Yep, I'll
Yeah.
take that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate you all. Thank you for joining us. I hope that this has been insightful. I hope that you have some takeaways from just the conversation with my friend who's also in this work. I am Dr. Kesslyn with the PhD Consultants, and I appreciate your time. Please do the work. There are people who are losing their lives at the hands of a domestic violence perpetrator, and not just their physical lives, but their emotional and their mental well being. So We must do the work. Be safe, be well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.